Michael DiLeonardo, also known as Mikey Scars. The government says he's a high-ranking member of the Gambino crime family.
No Excuses with Michael DeLeonardo. I'm your host, RJ Roger. We got Craig Carlino back again. We're going to continue, pick up where we left off. Michael, how you doing, brother? Craig, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Thank you for having me, guys. Appreciate you giving me the platform.
Yeah, I'm doing great as usual. Just keep smiling at everybody. Everything works out.
Craig, when you rewatched the first show that we did, what were your thoughts watching it back?
A lot of information, a lot of rambling. I hope people liked it. I hope the story intrigued them a little bit, or as much as could be. And we got a lot of information, but that stuff has been built up inside me for so long. For people taking credit for something that I did, and that wasn't sitting well with me. So, again, I appreciate the opportunity you guys have given me to put it out there.
Is there a little bit of like memory lane when you're rethinking about all this stuff for the first time in a while? Does it make you, wow, it's crazy what that was that time of my life?
I have to tell you, they violated my contract, or I left 1995, and I've been in a bad mood since 1995. That's how I put it. I've been in a bad mood that long. Yes.
So we talked about how you built up scores. We talked about all of that. That was super interesting hearing all that. I can tell you still have a lot of passion inside of you about it. So we want to kind of shift a little bit and talk about when things start to become sticky. Craig DePalma, the last discussion we had, we were discussing Craig. So what happened there with between you and Craig? You said that they wanted 5,000, and you said, "I'm not paying you," which is a ballsy move. I'll tell you and tell him, I'm not paying you.
Just a little preface to that. You're in the club. Everyone knew how much money I made. Everyone. Hey, some guy I didn't even know who's from some low-level guy, or hey man, I hear you made 18,000 last week, or I hear you made 20,000 last week, or this guy makes a lot. Like, everybody on the planet knew how much money I made. Also, at the same time, I was down in Atlanta, kind of giving advice and operational info on how to turn the Gold Club around. And there's a reason I'm telling you that now. So, kind of there's just a lot of activities going on at once. The club is hot. Pfeffer and Blue Trick were acting weird. I knew their office was wide. He was always trying to set me up to say something bad. Now, I'm not a mob guy. I'm not a mob associate. I was dealing with all those guys, but I always used to tell people, man, watch what you say in here. And my favorite was surrounded by rats. I just knew it. So one day I'm sitting in my office we had on Park Avenue, and Mike Sergio walks in and sits at my desk and sits in front of my desk and says, "Craig DePalma wants $5,000 a week." And I said, "There's no way I'm paying that." He says, "Well, then you're going to have to go." I'm going to say, "Well, we'll see about that." But I had already given Mike $75,000 in a 6-month period because he wanted to buy a house in Vegas, which the Fed seized but never gave me my money back. So that would be good. And I would always get him Rolexes for Christmas, or big screen TVs, which is, some people used to say, he's got this little apartment in the Bronx. The TV takes up his whole living room. It's kind of blowing his hair back every time he turned on the television. So I was just adamant. I said, I've created this wonderful business, and now someone wants to shake me down. It just wasn't sitting well with me. So I said no. And Mike said, then you're going to have to go. And I said, we'll see about that.
Okay. And at a trial in Atlanta, when you testified, that stuff did come up, what you just mentioned. So that's been cooperated with your story.
Oh, yeah, it did. I don't remember. Okay, good.
Because Mike Sergio did testify against me in Atlanta.
Right.
So,
yeah, I saw him. He was handcuffed to a desk. I saw him.
He was handcuffed?
Huh?
Interesting, they handcuffed him.
He was handcuffed to they were handcuffed to desks. I guess I wasn't, but some of the guys that were testifying against you were.
So no, but you were actually, in their minds, Mike Sergio had you down as an associate of his. And I'll just throw two other names at you also that you could get into to open up this conversation a little bit broader. Sure. Angelo Prisco, right. And also Chin's son, Andrew Gambino. Right. But with Mike Sergio, why he's asking you that is when you were gifting him these things, right?
Right.
He was your, let's say, tongue-in-cheek, your rabbi.
Yes, that's right. That'd be a good description. Right, that's right.
So now when he comes and tells you another person says, we want 5,000, are you thinking this is Mike trying to tax you? Or are you thinking, no, this is Gambino family trying to tax me?
Gambino family. I didn't think it was Mike. He didn't have that in him. He was a simple kind of guy. I did not hate Mike. I liked Mike because, frankly, he was really helping me get paid. Those guys never wanted to pay me. So if I got to throw him, if I made 400 grand or 500 grand that year, Mike was like, I was supposed to get paid every Tuesday. And I'd call him up and say, that Lyle or the piece of shit Blue Trick's not paying me. He'd make a call, and then 20 minutes later, my check would be ready.
And that's exactly what I mean. So now, whether you believe it or not, at that time or even today, Mike Sergio, you were with him, which entitled you to be with the Gambino family. I'm just trying to create a picture to everybody here that's watching how you get involved in this. In the mob aspect.
Sure.
You didn't come in that way, but you wind up being a lot of there's 5 families in New York, 1 in New Jersey. They control a lot of venues, entertainment venues, whether it be a discotheque, adult entertainment club, restaurants. They control a lot. A lot of these people gravitate to them, and they are with them. Even though you don't have to be a Shylock in the street to be with somebody, you can be a butcher. And you were just that guy running the club that Mike Sergio championed your cause. So this is where now this needs to unfold, as RJ articulated about Craig DePalma and the Gambino family.
So I refused, and a couple of things simultaneously happened. I was, like I said, helping Steve down in Atlanta, Steve Kaplan with the Gold Club. And he then decided to make a move. He went to talk to Blue Trick and Pfeffer and just badmouth me and call me every name in the book. Now, Steve says, well, I do that to get them to talk more. Like I'm ungrateful. I've seen the recordings. I was ungrateful. I was an ungrateful bastard. They done so much for me. I thought it was kind of reversed because I gave them a fair shot. And besides running a club, uncovering all the scams that everybody had going on in there was also a big part of the job, which quite frankly, I wasn't crazy about. So Steve goes, unbeknownst to me, this is what he told me. He said when we met for dinner, and he said he went to Junior. He might have went to you, I don't know. John Gotti Jr. Steve went out in the restaurant. He goes, I went to John, and nobody's there. Meaning Mike Sergio's not a captain, or I don't even know, was he a made guy or just an associate? So he was just there. So Steve's quote was, there's nobody there. I'm like, so what are you going to do? He says, well, maybe we could take the place. Well, how the hell do you do that? I mean, just take it? I said, listen, man, get back to me. Let me know. I don't want nothing to do with taking nothing. I have a contract. I kind of knew it. Of course, I knew what he was talking about, but I didn't really know exactly where he was going. A couple of weeks later, at the same time, I'm opening a restaurant on 3rd Avenue with Paul Sorvino, the actor from Goodfellas, which we opened Sorvino's Italian restaurant. And at the same time, my father was in the hospital with like a week or two to live. So that's when Blue Trick and Pfeffer send that letter to my restaurant terminating me. So I didn't get hot. I didn't lose my temper. I kind of stayed measured. And the first thing I did, and I didn't like them, we were having the relationship with Blue Trick and Pfeffer fell apart the last 6 months to a year.
Hold on. Let me. Okay. All right. Okay. So we get to this point that it wasn't for dereliction of duties, wasn't being for insubordinate. This thing was based on, I'm going to let you answer. What was this termination? What was their grounds that they terminated? Because you do have a contract.
I have a contract. They accused me of sexual harassment on the girls, which is how most adult entertainment companies get out of, that you scare the guy, like sexual harassment of employees. And I had a clause in the contract where if the volume went down 20,000 a week for 6 weeks straight, they could terminate me, which did not happen. None of that happened.
Was also a drug clause in there or anything like that?
No, there was no drug clause. I never did drugs. I mean, I know people.
The pretense was you were a junkie, a drug addict. Now you're saying, I'm not going to say junkie.
Right.
I was using cocaine.
Right. Never did use cocaine ever.
This, what I want to set up where they have to have some kind of legal ground that they think they can beat you in court. Blue Trick is a lawyer. He's an attorney.
Right.
Okay.
But
so when he's looking at your contract or created the contract, he thinks he has you. But now he thinks he has the contract and he thinks he has the backing of the mob.
Right.
Search. Okay.
Right.
So now when
I go to see,
when you're talking to Mike Sergio, what is Mike's position about your contract? We know what you said about Steve, and I'll get into what Steve told me and Junior. But well, what did Mike Sergio tell you at this point? Because he's your guy. Yeah.
Well, he didn't. He came to my restaurant. Just to keep it in sequence, I went to see Steve first when I got the letter. And I said, you went to take over the club and I've been terminated. So I'm good. He said, don't worry, I'm going to fix that. I said,
but hold it right there. Mike Sergio, you already told Mike Sergio, I'm not giving the 5,000.
That's right.
Because you're going to have to get out. So that ground was laid before Stevie Kaplan.
Well, I didn't get fired though until
got the letter later on.
I got fired like a week or so later, right? So a couple of days later, Mike comes to the restaurant, and he's very hot. He's very hot, and he's calling Steve every name in the book, cursing him. Ice picks, chainsaws, axes, all that kind of stuff, So it's like, Mike, I had nothing to do with any of that. He's a this, he's a that, screaming and yelling at the top of his lungs. A couple of days later, I get a call from Mike Sergio again, and he says, that guy Steve's a really nice guy. He's a good guy. He's all right, that guy. So I'm like, well, something must have happened behind the scenes for Mike to have a change of attitude like that. And I met with Steve, and he said, what do you want to do? I said, I'm really not sure. I'm uncomfortable with those Gambino guys because the ones I had met were always counting my money, or, DePalma wants 5,000 a week. And, a lot of them kept coming to the club, and, just no one really bothered me. I just didn't like, I just felt it was very intrusive of someone, because I was a legit guy. One thing, if I'm in business with a guy and he puts up money and, he's a Gambino guy and we're doing it, okay, but it wasn't like that. And I did not like feeling like a mark. I felt, Mike was making money from the club. He was earning beside from me. He was getting money from Theft from Blue Trick. He was getting money from the coat room. was getting money from the dressing room. He was getting money from the DJ. I mean, there was money coming in from everywhere because we charged the DJ to work there too. DJ paid a house fee.
Now, let me stop there. Now, you're the general manager of this club, and you're seeing all this money being allocated or taken right from under your nose.
Right.
And you didn't have an issue with it because that's the way the world was, and you just let it go as long as nobody was bothering your progress. Whatever they taxed, whatever Mike Sergio and his son Steve taxed the place, or Blue Chicken Pepper did, you didn't have an issue with challenging them for taking that money, did you?
No, it was when we started charging the DJ money, $10 a girl. So if you have 100 girls, $1,000 a day. Steve Sergio kept coming to me. You're going to start charging the DJ. You're going to start charging the DJ. You're going to start charging the DJ. And I said, yeah. He's like, well, that money goes to me. I'm like, well, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the money in the safe. You go to the owners of the club, Pfeffer and Blue Chicken, whatever you guys work out is fine with me. I'm not going to do that.
Okay, I'm a little confused about DJs usually get paid big money in clubs.
Right.
Why does he got to pay you? Break it down.
Because the girls have a tip out, right? So the minimum tip out to the DJ was $10 a girl, but they always gave more money. So, if a girl's with a customer, guy's drinking champagne and he's spending big money, she would tip the DJ to keep her out of the rotation. You're in your strip club, Amanda to the main stage, Brittany to the side stage, this one to the show stage. So to stay out of that rotation, she could go in and tip the DJ $20, $30, $50, whatever. Or a certain song she likes to dance to. She might throw him some money. Most clubs don't allow it. I allowed it. I allowed it because I had enough girls to run the rotation. You always have 2 on main, 2 on side. So you always have 4 girls on the stages going all doing a 3-song set. So I allowed it. So the DJ was walking out of there with sometimes $3,000, $4,000 a day. So to kind of wasn't really to keep them off me, although the thought did come into my mind a bit. I said, just I'm going to put the money in the safe and you guys do what you want with that. That's got nothing to do with me. If that's the long, seems all my answers are long, but I don't know how to get around it and trying to make them a little shorter, but that's how that went.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, RJ, you want to say something?
No, so the girls don't want to be in the rotation, and I'm taking it because it's less money than it is to not be involved in.
When you go in the rotation and you're going on stage, I would tell the girls, you want to make eye contact with the guest, because you want to come off stage and you want the guy to get dances from you. And then the floor hosts are supposed to, help the girl off stage and say, hey, did you like her? Let me bring her over and kind of get the party started. This is so-and-so. This is Samantha. This is John and Mike. Have a seat. And, off they go. Table dancing, whatever he's doing, hitting on her, all those kinds of things.
Just throw this little tidbit in for everybody. When these girls got tipped from the customer, right? Well, what did they usually average? I know it's a hard number to put your thumb on, but that had to be some kind of average that they all got.
Between $1,000 and $2,000 a day. But remember, we didn't have private rooms back then. So now they make 3, 4, 5, 10, 20. I mean, I've seen it go on and on and on. But without the private rooms, just table dancing. There's another note, too, where I put the girls between the guys' legs. As my competitor had them, Pure Platinum that we talked last episode, outside the knee. Those rules are only in effect for full nudity. We had just a regular cabaret license. So in my mind, people were humping and grinding on dance floors all over New York City. That's the same license we had. So I told the girls, look, get up right in there between the guy's legs and rock his world. And even the girls that came from the other clubs said, my God, the dancing's close here, but the money cures that real quick. And plus, I always also taught our floor guys and security, always, if a girl's surrounded by 3 or 4 guests, always make eye contact with her so she feels safe. So anyway, getting back to Steve, I turned the deal down and he's like, okay, Craig, if that's what you want to do. Sorry, I'm a little out of sequence here. Steve said, you're not fired, and went to Junior. And then I went to my restaurant on 3rd Avenue, and I met with Angelo Prisco, boss or big captain in the Genovese family.
He's a captain.
And he's a captain, I guess, you know. And I really liked him a lot. And he'd come to the restaurant for dinner a few times, and I asked his advice. And I said, you know, I don't know what to do. What do you think I should do? And he's like, you know, if you do this deal with them, you're going to be with them. And I'm not telling you what to do. I'll always be a friend, but you're going to be with them. So
let me stop you right there. So, as street protocol, Angelo Prisco didn't claim you, one, or could not claim you, two.
He claimed me later on, but for this discussion, he just liked me. He never asked me for a dime. I had heard that, you know, no one messes with Angelo. They didn't use the word messes. You know, pretty tough guy, had a big reputation, and I liked him. That's all I could say. I didn't, you know, the guys that I had met.
But he couldn't help you.
Oh, he helped me a lot.
Not with the club.
Well, a little bit. I'll continue what happened. So,
if I may interject real quick, Michael, I kind of think you're throwing some leading questions. So, from your understanding, you're there. What is when you're saying he didn't help you with the club? I guess you're speaking on some kind of protocol that even if he did, he shouldn't have been.
All right. This is what I'm saying. Scores, as everybody knows, I don't tell you how big Scores was. You think Angelo Prisco or any other wise guy is not going to lay claim to a club that a guy like Craig, he's supposedly with him? No. Angelo Prisco would have loved to have that club under his belt.
Yes.
Like wise guy in the city.
Yes.
But you may not know it. You were with Mike Sergio. Which
right. Which is really where I didn't want to be.
Peripherally. You know, you weren't directly with a wise guy, but you were an associate. You became a little associate with another associate who was with Frank Licasio. He was with Frank Licasio, who was away at the time, who Tori's in the street. Tori's still in the street. So, so go ahead. You're speaking to Angelo now.
So you know, I'm talking to Angelo, and he's like, listen, you want to go open somewhere else? Go open somewhere else, and no one will bother you. So I said, well, I'm going to sue them for breach of contract. And he said, all right. He's like, you know, wise guys don't like lawsuits, but I'm not going to tell you what to do. If you feel you want to breach, you breach. So I go to my lawyers. I give him a $10,000 retain. I bring in a big law firm. I meet Steve. I turn the deal down. He thought I was nuts. Then a couple of days later, he says,
when you say turn the deal down, can you explain what you mean, just for viewer, for listener purposes?
Yeah. So they wanted me to go back in there, and this was before I met Mike. I met Mike. I'm leading up to that. And I just decided I didn't want to be around those Gambino guys. I had money at the time. So when you have money, it makes your decision a little easier. And I was hot. I said, you know, I could go do another club somewhere. There's another club called Tens. They wanted to bring me on board. And they were giving me a pay cut, but they wanted to pay me a lot of money. So if I get away from these guys, you know, and DePalma wanting $5,000 a week really rubbed me the wrong way. I'm like, you know what? If you're going to pay someone, in my mind, it should be a two-way street. You know, if I'm helping you, get behind me and help me. I'm not just here like, I didn't like feeling like some jackass or a sucker or a mark or any of those words. So that was the reason why, that was my thinking anyway at the time. Right or wrong, that's how I was thinking. So Steve picks me up, says, come on, take a ride. You're going to meet somebody. And, you know, we were really close. So I got in the car. I trusted him. We drive to Brooklyn. I don't know, Mike, we met in an alley or a boatyard or a parking lot or something. And we're driving in there. And I got to tell you, I said, Steve, I mean, this is a little scary. Are you sure you know what you're doing, man? He's like, yeah, don't worry about it. It's going to be okay. And they patted me down. Steve had his friends with him, or guys that work for him, with him, regular guys, just to make sure I wasn't wired. And of course, I would never be. And I met Mike. We were just standing in the street or an alley or wherever we were.
Yeah.
And, right? In the alley, right? And now he said, listen, tell me what's going on. And I told him. He says, look, I think I even offered you money. You turned it down. I said, look, if you want.
I'm going to tell you what happened.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I was already getting, I'll give you the other side. I was already getting a lot of info from Stevie Kaplan. He was going to Junior and I about this. Now, how we know about everything is because Junior gets Willie Marshall, right? Name we haven't mentioned that, a job there as a bouncer in security. Now, Willie Marshall was around Greg and Craig DePalma. He was the guy who worked out. He was in pretty good shape, very good shape. And they wanted to get a job. So they went to Junior because Torrey LaCassia wanted nothing to do with this. Even though that club was with him, he wanted nothing to do with it. How I know, I'll explain the story, the next story about Torrey when I spoke with him. But they go to Junior, and Junior sends word to get Willie Marshall a job. Word goes through me. I have to go meet Torrey and go tell him, get him a job. Right? So they put him to work. That's how they get the pulse of what's going on really inside that club, the DePalmas. Greg and Craig DePalma get caught on tape in their house talking about the money between 14 and 18,000 a week in that club. So they see gold mine. They never mentioned to Junior how much the money was. All right. They just said, Torrey's guys, they're neglecting the place. We'll have Willie in there and we'll get a pulse on it and we'll see what we can take out of it. So Junior listened. So now when you come to me, I already have all this information from Steve. I did not know Stevie was bringing it to my house. I was very angry with Steve. I was sitting on my couch relaxing. I was very angry with Stevie for bringing you, a stranger that I never met or knew nothing about, just words that I heard about. Stevie liked you. He was very impressed in your skills. That's 100%. And he said that you were going to do other clubs together, Minnesota and some other states. You may have done something. He wanted to go public with the clubs, put all these clubs together, including Scores, put all their numbers together. This was the thought. And maybe I could open up, knock some cobwebs off the you can get into that. So when he brings you to me, again, I'm steaming right now, but I'll meet you because he told me so much about you and the situation is there. I'm already in this situation without you and anybody else knowing, except for Torrey. I never met any Sergios ever. Every time I met Mike Sergio, he testified against me. It's the first time I've ever seen the guy. Right. So he brings you in and you start explaining, Stevie and you start explaining about the club and the situation. And I said, is it really worth it to stay in this place? He says, well, I got him beat in a lawsuit. It's okay. He says, they're making, you said it, and Stevie said, they're making accusations that you're a drug addict, you're screwing all the girls, which you're screwing girls. It's a strip club. What do you do? There's girls in the club, you have sex. Where's that a crime? I don't know how that became a crime. I don't know. So it fell on deaf ears. And you told me, Michael, they said they got me on tape. Keep me in the club. Show me the tape. I'll give you $500,000. That's what you told me. I don't know if you remember.
I was doing drugs, right?
Yeah, if you were drugs, keep me in the club. If the things are it's lying, I'll give you $500,000. It's not true. Everything they're saying about me is not true. I got them beat in court. Remember? So now I said to you and Steve, I said, look, consider what you're talking about. Because I knew what was going to go on behind the scenes with you. Because they already knew you went to Angelo. And Greg DePalma wasn't happy about that. Not that he was happy. He didn't control you, but they thought they wanted to. So when they're saying they want, now that Craig and Greg are on tape in the house saying they want to throw you out and take that money, like I said minutes earlier. And they never told Junior or I about it. So they were scheming behind everybody's back. Right? So how we leave off is stay close to Steve. If you really want to be in the club, fight your lawsuit. I don't know who and what you are, right? Fight your lawsuit. You got to beat legally. And this is what I'm saying. And I'm going to go talk to Junior right now, because right now I'm mad at Stevie, and I know you're getting pushed out. And if we could keep you in, I want to keep you in at this point. If we could keep you in, and Tory, it seems like he's not paying any mind to this place, right? He's really not. He's not there. And he's got these two guys out there. Now I'm going to have to find out what's Tory's real interest in. This is what's going through my mind. So that's how we leave off. It was pretty good. If you could add or subtract to anything that I just said, please do.
Yeah. I felt good after I met you. You said, you could stay in there, make the money you're making. I'm like, well, I remember this. I said, well, how much do you want? And you said, I don't want your money. That was a quote I would swear on 100 Bibles. Said, I don't want your money. Just go in there, stay with Stevie, and we'll work out the rest. So our meeting only lasted about 10, 15 minutes, if that, right? It was quick. So I turned around and left with Steve. He said, so what do you think? I said, I don't know. I got to think about this. So now at the same time, what people don't know, my father was 58 years old on his deathbed in New York Hospital while I'm getting fired from Scores, while I'm building the restaurant Paul, and while I'm dealing with this. So I went to talk to him. And he was licensed to carry a revolver. He had a 38 at the hospital in his nightstand, or he might have had it in his apartment, but I said, where's your gun? And he told me where it was. I might have went to his apartment to get it the next day, but I told him what was going on. He says, so what do you want to do? What do you think? And I'm like, I did say this because I was very angry. I said, well, you got about 4 or 5 days to live, right? He said, yes. I said, well, why don't you kill Theft from Blue Trick for me? I swear I said that. He says, you out of your mind? I was like, yes, I'm out of my mind, but yes. What's the difference? He goes, you're like your grandfather. You're nothing like me. You're out of your fucking mind. Sorry. You're out of your mind. I'm like, well, he says, listen, if you sue somebody, it's going to go in front of a judge. And if a judge says you don't belong there, you don't belong there. It's okay. But don't let them tell you you don't belong there. If a judge wants to tell you that, you're not going to like it, but you can live with it. So that's when I really knew, and I wanted to get away from those Gambino guys. And like I said, if I knew Mike a little better, it probably would have went the other way. And I just decided not to drop it, but I wound up dropping the lawsuit anyway, but that comes after this. I just decided to walk away from it and sue them. Now, when you have money and you're fat in the bank and you got a couple restaurants, that's a little easier to do, right? I just thought it would be best to get away from those guys and do something else. So
you left between $4,000 and $20,000 a week on the table.
Yes, I did. I left $20,000 a week on the table. That's right. Everybody said I was out of my mind.
And don't forget, this is $20,000 a week in 1990 money. 20,000 a week is good money now, 30 years later.
Well, so here's the other part. Now I hire a big law firm and I sue them. So Angelo comes to see me again and he says, listen, I don't like that mob, quote unquote. I don't like those guys. He didn't mention anyone's name. And DePalma's not my favorite guy, quite frankly. I'm not telling you what to do, and no one's going to mess with you in this restaurant. But I'm going to tell you, you got to walk to the parking lot every night. You got to be careful. You got to be really careful. These guys don't like lawsuits, but continue. See what happens. Keep going. I'm not going to tell you to drop anything right now. If you're owed money, you're owed money. And that's it. So I kind of felt like they were keeping those guys off me a little bit. A couple of days later, I got a visit from Willie Marshall, and he came with 3 guys who I recognized, but I don't remember their names. And Willie always liked me. Willie and I had a good relationship. He had respect for me, which I appreciated. And, he's RJ, the guy's a big dude. I mean, big, strong guy. And they came in to, I don't know whether it's to rough me up or threaten me or whatever, to drop the lawsuit. Now we're in drop the lawsuit mode. And Angelo just happened to be there that day, having dinner at my restaurant on 3rd Avenue. And he didn't really say anything to me. He saw Angelo. The four of them sat down, had dinner, paid their check, and left. It's really kind of a beautiful thing to see, actually. He completely neutralized them just by his presence. They didn't really, as I guess they would if a guy like Mike walked in. It was the same, I'm caught in this web of Gambino and Genovese stuff, which I really did not want to be in, quite frankly. And so he left. Willie comes and visits me a few days later at the restaurant. And he says, I want to talk to you a second. He says, listen, Craig, I like you. You got to drop this lawsuit. I'd hate to see anything happen to you. I said, well, I'd hate to see anything happen to me too. But Angelo had coached me a couple of days before and said, listen, if anyone comes to talk to you, anything like that, just tell them you don't have a problem with the Mafia. You're not mad at anybody else. You're suing Pfeffer and Blue Trick. It has nothing to do with the Mafia. You don't want no trouble with the Mafia. Be humble. Say, you want to be friends with everyone. Just kind of disarm it a little bit. So I tried that with Willie, and he left. Now, the reason why I'm telling you that, and I heard this tape, is he went back to DePalma and told DePalma he was going to chop me up with a hatchet, which he never did, by the way. But I held on to that tape for my lawsuits and stuff like that, because I wound up dropping the lawsuit a couple of days later, where Angelo kept coming to me and say, listen, again, I'm not telling you what to do, but sometimes, you can get rid of all this crap by just dropping the lawsuit and go open wherever you want. And then we'll work on, who you're with and all this kind of stuff. So that's what I decided to do. So I dropped the lawsuit. And
well, let me ask you a question. Do you have that tape in possession today?
I used to have it. I don't. I heard it. I know the FBI and the U.S. Attorney have it because they played it for me. And I'm still friends with Steve at the time, and I'm still going to Atlanta and helping him with the Gold Club and that. And now we're going on. I dropped the lawsuit and kind of all.
All right, so now let me give you the backdrop. Now let me give you the other side. Stevie did champion your cause to stay there,
right,
and to clubs with you. He said that you would do the right thing if you stayed in the club. And the right thing means pay some money.
Of course.
I went to go see Tori. I told you I was going to follow up with another visit with Tori. I met him down in Battery Park, and Tori told me, he says, Michael, my father told me, who was in prison, he told him way before, stay away from those two Jews. They're going to rat. They're going to jam you up. Go there. You want to drink. You want to hang out. Pay your check or whatever. They want to comp your check. But take no money from them. Don't do nothing with them. Now, with Sergio and Mikey Hop did, Corey didn't get 5 cents. Nothing. They took that, put it in their pocket. What Willie Marshall did and Craig DePalma, again, Craig DePalma and Greg DePalma were on the move on their own. I was meeting with Junior about this, I would say, probably a dozen times over this situation with you and Stevie, because Stevie was pushing to keep you in the club. Like I said, he had greater plans about, putting all these clubs together and going public, where it would be monster money if it could have been done. Right? You're talking about they did $400,000 a week. The Gold Club at the end wound up doing $400,000 a week also. How do I know? The numbers came out when I was on trial, and I was scratching
Seems
my
to
head.
be my number, 400,000.
400,000. You're talking almost $1 million.
30 years ago, 400,000.
Yeah, that's without opening up any more clubs or putting anybody else in the fold. Oh, there was other clubs out there, VIP, 10s, and everything else that came later on that we knew the people. We could have thrown them, made a conglomerate at us. Anyway, so I get a call one night, and I said this on another show. I get a call one night about from Junior, and I went out and meet him in the rain out in Queens. And he was really hot, really mad. And Craig DePalma's there. Stevie Kaplan and with Jimmy Carrillo were there. And poor man he's white. He was even more white. He was alabaster, right? That's how he looked so nervous and scared he was. And Craig DePalma's telling Junior a bill of goods. This is about with the lawsuit, with the money, but he's not saying how much money. That you won't get out. Stevie has no control over you. And spewing all this nonsense. And I look at about the drugs with you, about the girls, and I look at him. I say, Craig, you're a liar. Well, I'm calling another wise guy a liar in front of his skipper, which is running the family, which is Junior. He really got angry with me. I had to apologize for that. He called a guy a liar, but he was lying. He lied about everything. So we go after we calm down. Stevie Kaplan is, I'm telling you, literally shaking on the corner, poor guy, and. We go, John and I go on the side. It comes down. I said, John, there's something else going on here. I says, Stevie brought the guy to me. And I told him that story when it happened. Stevie brought the guy to me. I says, we got a legitimate shot here. The guy's making all this money in the club. Why are we throwing him out? No, he's going to drop the lawsuit. They wanted to drop the lawsuit. And I want to drop the lawsuit. So we're going back and forth. I said, you're going to make this, meaning you're going to make him, those guys are going to make him run to the FBI. I says, you're going to just rob this kid, threaten the laws. He's a legit kid. How do we know this kid? I mean, your kid, a little younger than me.
Everybody called me a kid. I was 30 years old then. But yeah.
How old are you now? Let's timestamp this. How old?
60.
You were 30, let's say 30 years.
Yeah, I was 30, yeah.
So he goes, Michael, Craig told me, Blue Trick and Pfeffer, he didn't call him Blue Trick and Pfeffer. He said, the Jews want to give us 200,000, throw him out, and we keep 200,000. We split it. I said, John, now I know I lost. There's nothing more to talk about. He's already gave a proposal. He's not asking my permission. He's telling me, go along with this. They're going to give us 200,000. What do you think? John, you want to go? You want to take the money? You're concerned about this? Everybody's okay. Whatever you want to do, I'm in. That's how the pressure comes now, full circle with you, with Andrew, because Greg DePalma is very close with the West Side guys, very close with Mario Gigante, very close with a lot of those West Side guys, and probably Angelo. I'm not sure how close he was with him, but he did have a relationship with him. So Greg DePalma was the one going to Prisco. And then Angelo, you forgot one guy. You circle back to this. As Andrew Gigante got involved too. You went to see him. They went to Angelo and trying to get you to drop the lawsuit in a nice way, the way Angelo did it with you. He was trying to, he had to like you. Because otherwise he just would have threatened to tell you.
Oh, there's no doubt about that.
I'm washing my hands with you. You're on your own. He could have done that, but he was trying to be nice, play nice. He did it politically. For a tough guy that he was, he seems like he was very political and knew how to handle that life. And I can't take nothing away from him. So that's what happened behind the scenes. And that's the culmination on how you decide on your own. Again, there was all those threats out there. Right. Really going to happen? I don't think we weren't killing you. That's for sure. Nobody was killing anybody. Would you went to the hospital? I guarantee you would have went to the hospital. If you didn't drop the lawsuit, somebody would have gave the order to go, because you just can't. There's other families involved now. People are hearing this. You can't buck the Gambino family or any family out there. You're going to be made an example of. And it's a shame, because you had a legit business. You had Stevie champion your cause. You had me backing up Stevie. I just lost the politics.
Well, you lost because I turned the deal down.
Well,
I would have taken the deal. You wouldn't have lost. We would be all in. We would have been in there.
Yeah.
That's what I think. I mean, you didn't lose anything. It was me, really.
No,
losing.
I'm not saying I didn't care if I got money or not.
Right.
I could earn a living off of scores. It would have been whacked 19 different ways anyway. By the time it would have been 38 cents.
Right.
So the thing is, you got caught in a whipsaw with everybody. And it's a shame because you did build the club up. It was a great club. And there was till today, people still talk about it. And, it was a real travesty that it went around this far, that the DePalmas were really even going behind Junior's back. And I'll tell you how. Another tape, like I alluded to earlier, is that they got caught on tape saying, wait till Mikey Scars finds out about this. Is Mikey going to tell Junior how much there was really coming out of Scores? And Craig goes, yeah, he is. You bet he is. No, he's going to tell him. Because they know Junior. It was Michael Bob. They were like this. Of course, I'm going to tell him. But they were scheming on their own with the real number, what was really coming out of there. So when Junior goes away in the Scores case, Junior wants to get pitched for Scores. How ironic, huh? Yeah, got pinched anyway. Right? When all said and done, we only got 100,000, not 200,000. They didn't give 200. They gave 100.
Well, I guess they went for the money because I turned the deal down. So now what do they got to lose? The guys.
Yeah, but let me interrupt you here. You're not getting that 18 to or 14 to 20,000 a week anymore.
Right.
Where is it? You're out now.
Of course.
They give only 100,000. Meanwhile, who's absorbing that money? Lyle Pfeffer and Blue Trick, right? So when Junior is in prison in the Scores case, he flips out. Willie Marshall flips right away. Junior abuses him in jail. Junior shouldn't have done that at that time. They all got a case, but he wound up in a case he never thought he'd be in. All said and done, they all went to prison for Scores, which is really ironic to me, for no money and all this talk going around. Junior sends me 2 messages, RJ, right? What were they? You remember?
Tell Michael he was right about everything and everyone.
His first message was, tell Michael he was right about everything. The second message, when the tape started to unfold, tell me he's right about everyone.
So was Craig Carlino for walking away from that crap. Turned out, but one thing I wanted to say is I'm kind of a tweener. Like, I'm not a mob guy, obviously, but I was dealing with people. So I felt kind of involved, and however a guy can feel involved, just dealing with these guys day in and day out, mostly being friendly with people. But I also felt that I was getting pushed around a little bit and I didn't like it. So you put in your mind, say, I felt they preyed on fear. If you're afraid, that works for them. So when my father finally passing away, I put his revolver in my belt. And I said, anyone puts a hand on me, which is why Angelo liked me too, by the way. I showed him, I said, listen, if anybody puts a hand on me, I'm shooting them. He's like, let me think about that for a second. I said, I don't know, should I kill him? Or he goes, nah, shoot him. I swear. He says, shoot him in the leg. I said, I got hollow points in there, so I'll probably take their leg right off. He goes, yeah, you don't have to kill anyone, but shoot him in the leg. I said, I might be better off killing them because then at least they can't come back at me or someone come back. But only if I get attacked. I wasn't looking for trouble, believe me.
You really think if you shot somebody that came to give you a beating, that the whole Gambino family is going to run away?
No, I didn't think that at all.
Okay.
I didn't think that at all. But in the moment,
you just have you go like this because you made.
Well, what do you do? So that's a good question. So what do you do? Stand there and just get your legs broken and your ribs broken and you're in intensive care for 3 months? Or I just said
a legitimate guy takes.
Nah, you gotta always fight back. You always gotta fight back.
Once I pulled the piece,
yeah,
everyone would back off. I'll tell you a story about Steve Sergio.
Hold it up. You know the mob has guns, right?
Well, I don't think the guys were expecting me to have a gun.
Okay, so once you show them a gun, you threaten.
Yeah, I knew.
It happened to you. Now instead of getting a beating, you're going to wind up dead. Never pull a gun unless you're going to kill somebody. You don't shoot nobody in the leg. You don't shoot them in the arm. You don't shoot. You You do know that. You pull a gun, be ready to kill somebody, because after you initiate that act, somebody's going to die after that.
I was ready to kill someone, and I was in such a bad mood, and I was so upset. I said, anyone lays a hand on me, they're going. I figured I'd get arrested for it and then, deal with the trial that way, rather, it's better sometimes, I thought, to be judged by 12 than carried by 6 was going through my mind. Right or wrong, I know this was all pie in the sky, but that's how my crazy thinking was. I was so hot. But no one did that. Nothing wound up happening is kind of what happened.
Okay, so let me give you an example. You ready?
Yeah.
Somebody got away with killing a wise guy, a legit guy, Jewish guy. Did you know Fisher?
I heard that story. I heard that story, yes.
He killed Shorty, and he got away with it by the law and by the mob.
Self-defense, I heard. Yeah, self-defense.
So that was by the law, and John Gotti, Sr., gave that guy a pass, and he liked Shorty a lot. He gave him a pass.
Why?
Shorty was coking it up. He was out of order, and that's the story. Got back with Steve that he was abusing the guy too much, and John, for some reason, gave this guy a pass to live.
Craig, at the time, were you aware of like you said, you were just a straight up and down guy that ran a business, and we know the Mafia, but were you aware of the danger you were in and in the moment, or did you not, because of you're in it, you're not thinking about it the way you would think about it now, or learning more about the situation? Like, did you know I could end up in prison? Or end up in a hospital bed with my legs broken, or I could, were you aware in the moment these guys could kill me?
I was aware that I had to be careful. And I was aware that I was walking in the street and I had to be mindful. So when I used to walk to my car every night, I had my father's .38 in my hand, cocked, in my briefcase in front of me. And I would just walk to the car every night. And if someone came at me, they were going. Just whatever would have happened after that would have happened. Mike, I'm sure, is right. But that's what would have happened. I was hoping maybe they'll even respect me a little more, because really wasn't killing anybody who was a somebody anyway. Somebody's coming to give me a beating. Mike wasn't going to come give me a beating. They pushed that down to lower level. It's not upper management shit. Upper management stuff. So I did get a call from Art Leach, the U.S. attorney at the time with the Gold Club case, had come to my house. This is months later. Come to my house, asked me about the Gold Club. But just to reference this story, he said, "Are you carrying a gun?" And I went, "No." And he's like, "Tell me the truth. Are you carrying a gun?" I went, "No, but I'd like to protect myself. Can you give me a special permit to protect myself?" And he said, "Well, of course we can't do that. And Gambino's haven't killed anyone in a long time." That's what he told me. But I said, "How do you know this anyway?" So I think Willie had already turned at the time. So I think someone was out there scouting me, and they might have seen me walking like this, and because there would be no other way anyone could know that I armed myself to protect myself.
Well, I could put a timestamp on it. They were arrested February of '98, right? Johnny was arrested in that case with Willie, February, I believe, '98. The investigation, let's say, started at least a year before.
Right.
So this is probably circa '97. Would that be right, Craig?
I got fired in '95, so '96, '97, something like that. I think you're a little too late, a year off, but something like that.
Yeah, because Willie Marshall don't flip until he gets pinched in '98, so it couldn't have been Willie. That's what I'm trying to tell you. If they're pinched in February '98, and Art Leach comes to see you before in '96, '97.
No, Art Leach came in '98. Yeah, it was a couple of years went by before he came to see me. Yeah. And then
finish up with the FBI, and his name was Bill Reddy, the agent. He was the case agent.
Bill Reddy. So a couple of years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped. 2 years go by. I'm still running around with Steve. The lawsuits dropped going on with my life, and I get a knock on the door at like 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon to my house, and it's Art Leach and Bill Reddy. Art Leach is a U.S. attorney, and Bill Reddy is an FBI agent. And my housekeeper answers the door. I'll never forget it. Running, I heard her, Craig, the FBI is here. Just like that. I'm like, what? The FBI is here? She says, yep. I said, okay. And our housekeeper was like family. She smoked like 3 packs a day. She was always coughing. We actually hired a cleaning lady to clean the house because we liked her so much. But I had an office set up in my house, put him in there. I said, I'll be in a minute. I came in, introduced myself, and shook hands. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm not in trouble. And they said, why do you think you're not in trouble? I said, because it's 2 in the afternoon. It's not 6 in the morning. You guys would come in with the door breaker downers and the wind breakers and the hats backwards, and you would have made a whole thing. So I guess everything's okay. They said, well, it's not okay, but we need some information from you. And they knew about the whole score situation. And they actually, I didn't have anything to do with the scores trials at all. This was about the Gold Club. They said, we know you're an expert in the business. We know you were a victim at scores. We know you turned down that deal, which is probably what saved you. And we know you were a victim. But we also know you helped turn around the Gold Club in Atlanta. I said, yes. And they were being very aggressive with me. I said, look, fellas, there's no reason to be aggressive with me. I only know so much. What do you want to know? I really didn't know Mike at all. So there was nothing I could tell him about him except that we had dinner and we met that one time. We didn't have dinner together. You came to my restaurant with somebody and had dinner and paid your check and left. So what do you want to know? I said, well, I want to know about the Gold Club. I said, well, what do you want to know? They knew I was fighting. I wasn't happy with Steve at the time because I felt he owed me a lot of money. We were supposed to do another club together for all that work I did at the Gold Club and showed him. And we spent 2 years flying around the country looking for a club, looking for a restaurant. And he kept turning down everything. We could have had VIP. It was a big winner after that. We could have, and then they died. We could have had Goldfingers in Queens. He didn't want that. We flew, like you said, to Minnesota. We went North Carolina. We went everywhere. And I was kind of getting frustrated with him. And I know how greedy he is. And I just, I was starting to get upset with him. So a couple of days before, there was a restaurant in Boca that I wanted to buy, Raton, Florida. I said, I'm going to move to Florida. Why don't we just buy this restaurant? It's already making, $700,000-800,000 a year on the books. Why don't you finance that? I can buy the place for like $600,000. The guy wants to get out, and he turned me down. And when Steve got in trouble or arrested, I flew right to Atlanta to help him. Everybody else ran out. So I felt I was loyal to him, and I felt that I was always trying to help him. And I kind of felt, he was one of the reasons I got removed from scores. Even though he was sticking up for me, they played me a tape of where he was calling me every name in the book. So I said, look, I'm certainly not going to perjure myself for this guy. I also knew he was a Jewish guy. He wasn't a made guy in a mob. So, they said to me, was there prostitution at the Gold Club? And I really didn't want to answer. And they said, we got a few girls. They pleaded guilty to it under immunity. So be careful because you don't want to perjure yourself. I said, well, of course there was. I'm not going to perjure myself for him, And then that's when they subpoenaed me to come to Atlanta and testify, which were the worst 2 days of my life. They asked me to wear a wire. I wouldn't do it. Then at scores, and I wouldn't do it against Steve or the Gold Club. Just wasn't my style to do those kinds of things.
I got to.
Sure.
They subpoenaed you to testify, right?
Yes.
Okay, so you were more of a hostile witness, or you're a willing witness? They threatened you they were going to arrest you. Why did you testify? Because you could have took the fifth.
I didn't commit a crime. I could have took the fifth. I wasn't gonna. And on top of that, after the scores cases were all settled and all the dust settled, I'm in I think it was Jay Goldberg's office who represented Trump, I think, a couple of times. And Steve had, these two high-powered criminal attorneys, Larry Bronson, and Jay Goldberg represented him. And I remember I walked into Jay Goldberg's office, and he came around his desk and shook my hand. He goes, "I really want to shake your hand." I'm like, "Thanks, but why?" He goes, "You're not an informant. You're not a rat. You didn't talk about anyone. You just went about your business," which is kind of what I did. I did that. Said, "Okay, thanks." And then I was talking to Larry Bronson, and he's like, if they threatened you to drop this lawsuit, you could bring it back up again. I said, "I can?" He's like, "Yeah." So I went back to my lawyers, and that's what we did. We refiled the lawsuit and sued them.
Against who?
Against Pfeffer and Blue Trick. Against scores who were now in the witness protection program. So I'm suing two guys that were in prison. And I knew I had a breach, and no one bothered me after that. No, that was a clear shot, And the club wound up with Blue Trick had in this guy's name, Irving Bilzinski, so the club wound up in his name. And they were running the club, and it was busy. It was still busy. And, we sued that. And I won't get into all the details of the lawsuit, but I wound up with a $550,000 settlement after that. The most important thing was my father's words on his deathbed kept ringing in my ears. Go in front of a judge and have your day. And, let a judge tell you you're not owed the money. And, well, if a judge tells you that, you're not going to like it. But I had to put it behind me. It was just bothering me so much. By the way, out of the 550, I had 300,000 in legal fees. I mean, it was a very expensive case to try. Did you want to say something, Mike?
Yeah, they took that much. I thought they got like a third.
287,000 in legal fees. Well, it wasn't on a contingency. It was a flat-out fee. And Scores was also in bankruptcy, so we had to file in the bankruptcy court. My original lawyer died, Marvin Gersten. So he had a really this really guy, Steve Popofsky was his name, real nerdy, skinny guy with a bow tie, valedictorian of Columbia University Law School, really smart guy. And they used to joke, they got the Gambinos and I have Steve Popofsky, because he'd go into court and start railing on those guys, the other attorneys. Carlino was threatened, and I had Willie Marshall on tape saying he was going to cut me up with an axe if I didn't drop the lawsuit. Also, I told Art Leach and the FBI, Agent Piretti, I need a letter from you guys because they're accusing me of being a junkie, a drug addict, a rapist, a Gambino associate, I was a member of every crime family in New York, which I, of course, was not. I said, I need you to write a letter saying I have a clean bill of health. Well, what if we have to testify? I go, well, then you have to testify too, because you're making me testify. So they did it. And as soon as that letter came through the fax machine, that hyperspaced their whole case, and they had to settle with me. So, I would have kept going to the end. I probably shouldn't have settled it. I probably should have kept going. I might have get more money. From the business side of it, I had a 5-year management contract. They fired me after 2.5 or 3 years. And so I only had 2 years left. So in a bankruptcy court, if I was making, $400,000 or $500,000 a year, I should have been making more, obviously. And, the judge might only allow 1 year of payment. So my lawyer said, you're going to keep continuing with these legal fees. A new guy took over the firm. I forget his name, Robert Wolf. And I did not like him. He kept banging me over the head. He actually deposed Steve Kaplan. And, they threw the book at him. And how many girls did you have sex with? How many boys did you have sex with? There was a cage in his bedroom.
Wait, they asked Stevie how many boys you had sex with?
Yeah.
He had no sex with boys. He wasn't.
Of course he didn't. But in a deposition, you could ask whatever you want.
I had to clear that up because it sounds like.
No, it was all nonsense. Of course he didn't. But, when you're going down that road, that's.
But who did have sex with boys?
Well, Michael Blue Trick, of course. The owner of Scores. Yeah, of course. No, it was nonsense. But, the lawsuits just because I sued Steve too for we didn't have a written contract, but we had an agreement. And he hired his high-powered attorney, Jay Russ. And Jay Russ tried to work me over in a those depositions for civil cases, you can ask whatever you want. You can kind of say whatever you want. So all kinds of stuff starts flying out. So my lawyer kind of did the same thing. I wound up and the only victory I have in Steve's case, I didn't make any money. I wound up dropping that lawsuit because the legal fees were getting crazy again. And but the judge told Steve's lawyer the first time they tried to get rid of the case, he says, well, you made 100 calls to Carlino. He wasn't just flying down there for girls, to have sex with girls. They had to do something. We showed him the numbers when I started, and we showed him the numbers now. But I did not have a contract there, and it just seemed moot to just keep raking up all these legal fees. And I had good law firm, but man, they were banging me over the head. I thought those were the real gangsters. Those lawyers were killing me.
Now, let me just set up a scenario. When you came down to Atlanta and had to testify against us, I'll take Stevie first. What was any damning evidence or exculpatory that you provided for Steve?
None.
Did that help them or hurt him? What did they try to get out of you, the prosecutor down there?
That there was prostitution at the Gold Club, and I was a club expert. I was their club expert, and they accused all his managers were also indicted, right, for being procurers of prostitution, which I said, no, they're not. Not the guys I met anyway, because I taught them the business. His managers, I walked around with them basically with my arms wrapped around their shoulders and said, this is what you should do this, do that, do this, do that. This is how you should treat this. Stevie
would have beat the prostitution. If he finishes the trial, he beats that charge.
Good. I wanted to let
Stevie pled out towards the end of the case, and he paid a big fine. He forfeited the property. It was probably $12 million worth of restitution he gave to the government for forfeiture, maybe more with the property. But they failed to prove prostitution in that case. A lot of the girls that testified were excoriated.
That was the easiest thing to prove. The prostitute. I mean, that was so.
Let's be perfectly frank, right?
Yeah.
How many celebrities came through that club? Just the Gold Club. There's a King of Denmark. Yeah, Andrew Jones. Every athlete.
All the athletes. Steve was big with the basketball players. Yes.
And all the basketball stars. We could name 100 names here, right?
Right.
Now, do you really think Andrew Jones needs or Stevie Kaplan to pay a girl to go with Andrew Jones?
Yes. That was his thing.
Girl has to get paid to go with Andrew Jones or any other big star athlete.
Yes, he would. That was his thing. He said he would use the P word. If I get these guys P, because I'm not going to curse, they know that, you kind of, everything with him was about manipulation to a point and control to a point. And yeah, that was his thing. Yeah, he would pay. I could see him paying girls to.
You said you could see.
Yeah. If you're asking me my opinion.
No. I'm we're at trial.
Well, he got charged with bringing girls cross state lines, the Mann Act, to have sex with athletes, right?
That's how they made it a federal case. That was a prostitution case. They did it through. You're very good. They made it a federal case by going over state lines. But those girls went voluntarily with athletes just to hang out with them and party. Now, whether the athletes gave them some, that's nothing. Steve Kaplan never gave those girls money, ever.
Oh, I've seen him give girls plenty of money. Well, it didn't have to be a famous person. I mean, the girls were committing acts of prostitution with a regular customer.
I was there. He was with me.
I was there too.
Let me talk.
Yeah, sure.
He wanted to ingratiate himself with me at all costs, as you should know, right? And everybody should know. I was a skipper. I got $500 a week. 500 little ones. He was doing $400,000 a week. When the number came out of trial, he was going like this, low and low in the chair. I had to kick him to get up.
I mean, that's the kind of guy he was, though. See, that was why I sued him.
But my point is this. He's never said, Michael, I got these two girls. I'm going to give X amount. You can go home with them. Never. Not that I wanted to go with any girls there. I don't go with hookers. I never went with hookers. I don't go with strippers, right? But the thing is, I've never heard him once say that. I've never heard from being involved in that case. There was one girl that was arrested. She was with Jackie Bush. She wrote a book. She never got paid. Stevie never gave her money to go with an athlete. They all went. Jackie Bush, I think it was the one who went with Rodman. I don't want to misquote this, but I think she's the one that went out of state. That's why she was pinched for prostitution. But Stevie didn't give her money.
Steve owned the club. If girls are committing prostitution in the rooms, which they were, the money doesn't have to come from him to be charged with prostitution because he owned the club. So
that's pretty shitty. You got to
because what happens was Steve's thing. He had these memberships. That was his thing. So his hosts would go, or the girl go, hey, why don't you buy a membership? You got $1,000, $1,500, $1,000 to $5,000. You get a jacket, you get a hat, you get that money, whatever gold bucks, that funny money they sell. You get champagne, you get this. You're gonna have sex. You're gonna get all this kind of things. And then the girls go in the room, and the guys they're humping and grinding them, and they talk them into sex. So Steve could get charged with prostitution without having to come with money out of his own pocket. He could have got charged just because it's in his club and it's happening, and you're setting that environment, which was the magic of the rooms, which all the clubs have right now. So, and most of them are bordellos at this point.
Dens of iniquity. But for the people that really don't know, Atlanta's the city of Atlanta is convention town, which leads to a lot of strip clubs. There's a lot of cheap, seedy strip clubs. As you know, you could teach us.
Right.
Cheetah and all other clubs.
Went to all of them. Yeah, been to all.
When you open up there, it was a high-end, classy place that the biggest and most famous athletes and personalities went there. I mean, I've seen the list of names at the witness list, the actors, actresses. Madonna left with 2 girls. He said one night, she came there, left with 2 girls. One girl just became like a girlfriend for a while. This is what I heard at the time through the case. So, it was an atmosphere that was a party town. That's all Atlanta was a party town, this Buckhead area. And, you supply women, sex happens. That's why I said, those guys, those athletes never had to pay for sex. I should say Stevie Kaplan, as far as I know, never paid a girl to have sex or go with an athlete. You don't have to. They go to, you remember, what was the club on China Club? Go to China Club. And how many athletes were there every night? Derek Jeter was there every Monday night, along with everybody else. You think that the owners should have been charged for prostitution? It was a straight club. It wasn't
it didn't have a bullseye on it. That's why. If you have a bullseye on your back or a target on you and running the club, there's a certain way you run a club and you try. And then when I kind of taught Steve, Steve's the kind of guy, you show him something, the next day he's on it. That guy is aggressive. I said, like I said once, there should be a bar in that corner. The next day there was a bar in that corner. It was crooked. He had this drunk carpenter on full time, and the bar was slanted, but it was there. Or he'd be up promoting and getting people all over the place. So most guys, when you give them advice, they go, yeah, right. Not this guy. This guy jumped on it, grabbed it, and then ran with it. But then he just kept going. I used to see girls in that club. They had to paint a yellow line on the floor because girls were walking guys to the ATM machines. And the guys were so messed up. They were like this on the ATM machine. And they're trying to give me a code, baby, to get your money. I'll give you a code. So.
But you made a good point. You opened my mind up a minute right now. Now, what came out of trial, you happen to be right. But you know how they got him whacked out like that? It wasn't from champagne. It wasn't from vodka or scotch. They were putting shit in their drink.
Oh, I believe it.
They were whacking them out.
I believe it. No doubt about it.
The cards, because there was like 3 people that testified. Really nice guys. You could tell they were victims. And they banged their credit cards heavy. And Stevie would have gotten convicted. I think he pled out to credit card fraud because it was compelling, the evidence there. He probably would have got convicted of credit card fraud there. Prostitution he was beaten, but the credit card fraud was overwhelming. Of course, Stevie kept all the records when the FBI went there and took all the boxes. They had 20,000, 30,000 a night. These guys. The next day, they didn't know where they were. Like you said, they would walk them to the ATM machines. You're right. Right about that.
I used to tell them, "You're going too far, man. You're going too far, and you're hiring the ugliest girls I've ever seen in a club. And when you do that, these girls are going to commit acts of prostitution to compete with the beauty, because men are dumb." And the biggest case in point I could tell you, and I tell this to everyone, why are strip clubs so popular? Why? Well, Bill Clinton had sex with that pig in the Oval Office, Monica Lewinsky.
I think he's a pig too, right?
Let me say something here. At some point, you have to say to yourself, you know what? I'm president of the United States. Maybe I should not be doing this. You shouldn't be doing it at all, number one, and I'm doing it right in the Oval Office. And so I use that analogy to say, so this is how dumb men are. So this is why strip clubs are so successful. Now,
just for levity purposes, do you really think that's the first time a sexual act was performed in the Oval Office?
No, of course not. But that's my point.
Yeah,
that's my point. They're right.
No, you make a great point, and I agree. I've been saying that my whole life. Men are so stupid that any smart woman can rule the world if you understand how stupid that men are when it comes to sex.
Even a strategy point that scores, we used to tell people, listen, these guys might have a couple of $100 on them, but everyone has a Visa card with a $2,500 limit. Go there, tickle their neck a little bit, make them feel good, make them feel happy, make them feel safe. My club, we never robbed anybody. The other guys were robbing people. I would never allow it. They're banging out some credit cards, and I would always catch someone with a scam because there was always a scam going on. But to stay on point, if the girls can legitimately get the guy to buy that funny money, which we made money on, and keep the guy in the club longer, they're going to spend more money. I also used to tell them, don't meet him outside the club, because once you have sex with them, you're going to lose a customer. The guy's going to move on. Just because, he's going to tell you everything in the world. He's going to take care of you. He's going to do this. He's going to do that. The guy's married and has kids at home. And we broke up. I didn't break, but a few marriages broke up too. I used to have wives coming in there looking for their husbands all the time. I mean, things like that. This isn't a wise guy story, but, we had all those things going on simultaneously. So I always tell the girls, men are stupid. Like, that's why you don't really see strip clubs for women. You'll see the Chippendale stuff on weekends because they'll do bachelorette parties or dance groups in a Las Vegas hotel, which is a show. But a girl, if you give her $1,500, $2,000, she's going to buy a pair of shoes. She's going to buy a bag, but she's not going to pay table dances or take a guy in a private room. But that's kind of the way the club business has gone to these days. But yeah, getting back to the trial, there was prostitution going on in the club. So Steve didn't have to take money out of his pocket. It just could have been doing that. And I certainly, again, wasn't going to perjure myself for him when I felt he owed me all this money. And quite frankly, I think I helped him more than I hurt him. Of course, I wasn't going there to hurt him. I was going there because I felt I had to go. And Art Leach called me, the U.S. attorney called me a few weeks before and said, I want to ask you something. I said, sure, go ahead. Steve had one of his security guys, I don't remember his name, went and smacked around these two girls that used to sell the funny money at the Gold Club. It was a mother and daughter combination. I don't remember the name. And he went there and physically hit them and threatened them to not testify, tried to scare them. And they supposedly smacked him a little bit. So would Steve, because they were going to pick Steve up for that. I swear this happened. And I said, it's not his style. He said, what do you mean? He's not violent. It's not his thing. I really don't know what you're trying to accomplish. I think you're trying to get Junior, is what I think you're trying to do, which is what they were trying to do. You and Junior, they were trying to tie to that club. But as far as Steve is concerned, is he greedy? Yes. But is he like that? No. He's not a violent guy. He would never send anyone to beat up anyone, especially two girls. So he said, okay, thanks for that information. And, they did not arrest him or bring him in for that. So, like I said, I was mad at him, but we had so much fun together, and I do miss him. Hope he watches this. And but I had no choice. But also, I wasn't going to perjure myself for him because I felt he owed me money. And, taking the fifth, I didn't want to have them on my back because I really didn't do anything anyway. So I finished my testimony. I was on the stand for 2 days. And I left. You were there, Mike. I mean, is there anything you want to bring up on the transcript or anything?
I didn't read them. I didn't get a chance to go through them, but I have some of your transcripts. The truth, I don't really remember what you said about me. I don't think you said anything negative about me at all.
I had nothing negative to say. When they asked me about you, I said I met him. We had dinner, paid his tab, and he left. I mean, and your lawyer told me, so he was nice to you. He unquote. You could check that. I said, yeah, he was nice to me. I didn't have a problem with you. I ran into you going down. I saw you coming in the elevator, and I was scared. I got to admit, I was a little afraid. And you didn't do anything. You said, no, it's all right. Like, it's all right. Like, man, I wasn't all right. You were all right. I wasn't all right. I was very uncomfortable there. And I also got a bunch of Steve's managers. I don't know if I got him off, but I said, no, I don't believe this guy's a procurer of prostitution. And one of Steve's guys, Ziggy, I don't remember his full name, is who turned him in. And I never liked that guy to begin with. And I warned Steve about this guy, but Steve knew him a long time.
Yeah.
Get his real name, but I never liked him. Andrew DeLeonardo or something. I didn't like him at all.
Yeah, he was one of the first guys to flip on Stevie.
He flipped on Stevie, Yeah. So, I got subpoenaed, so I had to go. I mean, just as simple as that, All right. What else you want to know?
I think this sums it up. I don't think
I want to ask about, did you ever read Michael Bluetrick's book? And I want to read the co-title because it's a great co-title. Scores is the title. Co-title, How I Opened the Hottest Strip Club in New York City, was extorted out of millions by the Gambino family, and became one of the most successful mafia informants in FBI history. Key point there, how I opened the hottest strip club.
Well, there's a couple of key points. Number one, he opened the most failing strip club in the country because he didn't know the business whatsoever. Two, his only interest was having sex with young boys. And three, he didn't give anybody the Gambino because I told the U.S. attorney, the FBI, these guys are the worst liars on the planet. No Gambino made guy, captain, skipper, boss would be dumb enough to talk to these guys. Mike Sergio did, but he wasn't straightened out or made guy like you guys would say. And like Mike would say, and Tori would say, those guys are rats. And I met Tori once. He said, nice to meet you. And he kept moving, And I was like, well, that was quick. And all right, well, that's fine with me too. As long as nice to meet you was good. And he kept walking. So, he did not create scores. He put some money into it in the beginning. It was failing terribly until I remodeled it and straightened it out. We went through that whole story already. It was really a failure. I challenge him or anyone to get into detail with me about that, of course. And certainly, he also became a federal informant. And I say this to people. Excuse me, and got 25 years in prison. And I correlated to Sammy Gravano, who I've never met and don't know, but admittedly killed 19 people, chopped off his brother-in-law's head, and got a pass. So how bad were these guys to get 25 years in jail to a lawyer and a mortgage broker? Still got 25 years each. And I told the U.S. attorney, and I told the only liars in that club, the only criminals in that club are them. You want me to give you someone? I kind of got a little lucky, I have to admit, because Mike Sergio was the only guy I could give them, and they had him. He already flipped. So there was no one else that I really dealt with there except hello, how are you? Meeting, all the guys that were coming in, but also politicians, athletes, mob guys, everybody. It wasn't unusual to have a lot of mob guys in a hot club or bar restaurant like that. Very, very common, so there's all kinds of stories, but, we're focused on the Mafia here that I have for scores and, but that book is just nonsense. And again, I don't understand how 60 Minutes could do a profile on this guy when he's a convicted and admitted pedophile. Like, you would think Anderson Cooper or the production company at 60 Minutes would vet him. So everything in that book is a lie. I don't think he got any of the Gambinos, really. Mike, you would know better than I don't think they gave, because everything they said was a lie. The only guy they could have gave him was Mike Sergio, maybe Willie Marshall a little bit. Like I said, but Willie was always pretty good with me. All those guys were pretty good to me, except Greg DePalma, who I never met. He was trying to hurt me behind the scenes, and I never met the guy. So,
well, how they cooperate? Blue Trick and Pfeffer, they got arrested. Had nothing to do with the mob. Zero. They got arrested, robbing, defrauding American Heritage Insurance Company. It was the biggest insurance fraud in the history of the country at the time. It was for $450 million.
Right.
And that Shalom Weiss, right? He was involved.
Right. Well, Shalom. That guy.
That way. Let me finish up.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
That's how the government gets them to flip on the Italians coming into scores. So $450 million. As opposed to a couple of Italians taking a few dollars from the valet and all that, not minimizing it, but you got to see the gravity of it. Now, why they get all that time is they're tried in the Middle District of Florida, probably one of the toughest districts in the whole country. The Middle District of Florida don't play. The judge hammered them. The judge did not care that they were cooperating in another case. Art Leach had to go down to Florida with a whole contingent and begged the judge to cut their time, because what are they going to testify? I think they have 40 years and they got some time taken off. I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, I think they got about 40 years. And they had a lobby to get more time taken off for their cooperation in Atlanta against me and Kaplan et al. So they really got screwed. But they're the culprits of the biggest insurance fraud in the history of the country at that time. And that's why they got so much time, Craig.
Yeah, and Shalom White, who I had a couple of conversations with. This guy, he's a Hasidic Jew, but he goes to Atlantic City. Trump pardoned. He was pardoned by Trump, which I could not believe, because he used to be a big gambler. He put $2 million in a cage in the Trump Plaza or the Taj when they were hot hotels. I can't understand any other reason why Trump would pardon that guy, except that he used to blow through a lot of money at his casinos. But you got a guy with the beard and the hat and the whole thing, with hookers all the time. And he used to come to the club and ask me. He said, "You want to do me a mitzvah?" And I'm like, what? He goes, "Can you get Solomon a goyal to take in the back and have sex with him?" And I'm like, one, I'm not a pimp. And two, I would never ask a girl to degrade herself to have sex with a guy that looked like that. So it turned out at the end, nothing really happened, except I fired up the lawsuit, got paid, and went on with my life. And I hadn't seen Mike in a very long time, and I was watching your guys' show. And I said, you know what? I have a story to tell. And I always liked Mike. The few times I met him, I said, let me try to reach out and maybe, I can get my story out there. And again, I appreciate the time, guys, because I did a lot of talking.